top voices in CFB, they've given us their preseason top 25. We've got a lot to say about it. Agree, disagree, both sides. So let's just get into it.
Welcome back to First and Short, your first place to get short bits of college football news and analysis. Welcome to the show, guys. Mash, spring ball's over. We're wrapping things up. I just want to let the people and the viewers know out there, if you're looking for a show to follow to get you, going and getting ready and prep for the season, you want to find out what teams to watch, who to look for, what highlights to glean over as we prepare for this fall. Please subscribe.
Because we're here all year. We're here all year.
All year. Post every week. We are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and of course Spotify. So please hit the subscribe button. All right. Back into it. So we have a really good agenda for today. So we're going to go over the preseason top 10 list from a couple of popular opinions in the college football world, and then we'll kind of give our opinions on that. After that, we will also, talk about, based on how the offseason and spring went, we're going to go over a couple of quarterbacks that could potentially change the trajectory of their teams this fall. Yeah. With that being said, let's get right into the teams that are in the top 10. Mash, why don't you kick us off there?
For sure. Yeah. So just to set the tone here, right? We're going off of two of some of the biggest voices in college football, like we said. That'll be Joel Klatt. He's on the Fox Sports Network. He's up there with Gus, having to deal with, his screaming every Saturday at noon. And then, of course, Josh Pate. So he's also been giving out his top 25, and he is a very respected member of the college football media space and all that, right? And so they after spring, they dropped their top 25. They got good contenders in there. They got some pretenders in there. So they got all 25. We're not going to go through all that. I just want to give the top 10 for each team, and I'll post the pictures here in the video. But Joel Klatt, he had Oregon from 1 to 10. He had Oregon, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Indiana at 4, Georgia at 5. Then we had the runner-up Miami Hurricanes at 6, Texas 7, LSU at 8, Texas A&M at 9, and USC Trojans at number 10. So that's Joel Klatt. Josh Pate, he had Notre Dame at 1, Texas at 2, Oregon at 3, Ohio State at 4, Miami at 5, Indiana at 6, number 7 is Georgia, number 8 is Ole Miss, number 9 is Oklahoma, and number 10 is Texas A&M. So a lot of similar players, teams, a few different here and there, a few unique ones, but like a large part of it is the same group, however you want to mix and match it, right? So some of them we had, let's start with the teams that we definitely agree with, right? So I want to start with Oregon. Joel Klatt had them number 1. So, Oregon is a very good team. They're very deep. They lost to Indiana in one of the playoff games, but look, they're bringing back Dante Moore. They have a very good backup in case something happens to him in Dylan Raiola, right? They have Jordan Davison, who's running back, who surprised everyone with how good he is, how good he was as a freshman. He's a running back, and he was a touchdown machine as a freshman. He had 15 rushing touchdowns, and so he's coming back, and so they have a lot of good returning production. Aaron, I was looking into the numbers. Oregon is number 6th in the nation at 54% returning production. In returning snap production, that's the highest is only 66. So they're a good chunk of people are coming back. But yeah, I totally agree with Oregon at number, or in the top 10. I mean, and yeah, no quibbles about that one. Who else do you agree with definitely belong in the top 10 based on these two lists that I mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So I'm going to stick in the same conference, and I see Ohio State. They're at number 3 and number 4 on those respective ratings in the top 10, right? They're tied for 3rd in returning production in their snap count. So 56% of their production is returning, right? So amazing numbers there. You know, ab- among the top in the nation. And then if you look at the personnel, right, you've got Julian Saying. He had his most accurate season ever, the most accurate season in college football last year, and he keeps his number one target in Jeremiah Smith. So, I mean, they are just returning, super powerful personnel in, and then there's other factors to consider, right? They're their third down and efficiency, standard, right? The college football modern era is won on those money downs, right? And right now, Ohio State's they set that standard in 2025. They led the nation with 53.3% down third down conversion rate, and they had a 70.6 fourth down conversion rate. So
That's
they were
crazy.
they were rolling the dice, but when they rolled it, I mean, it worked, right? So very, very, very cool stat there. Uh, their offense, it was the most efficient chain moving unit in the country. They averaged about 33 minutes in time in possession. So I mean, they're dominating who has the ball every game, and they're effectively killing the clock, right? Keeping their elite defense fresh and tiring out those other teams, opposing teams' defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And they
this
did really well against their rivals last year too, right?
exactly. So if you look at it, they went 3-0 against their primary rivals, right? They had Penn State, Michigan, and Washington in 2025. Winning those games by an average margin of 18.3. So they were winning pretty comfortably among these opponents. Um, so yeah, that's without a doubt a team that I think is in the top 10 that deserves to be there, and they're looking as strong as ever to continue
Yeah.
that this next season.
And the reason I brought up the rivalry thing, I forgot to kind of mention this at the beginning. Like, what is our criteria, like on first and short for creating a top 10? It's going to be like it's preseason, right? So you have to consider your end of 2025 results a little bit. You have to, and that kind of gets leveraged into how much returning production are you bringing. So that's why we keep mentioning the percentage of people that are coming back and how they performed in spring. And now that one's a little tough to judge just because different teams do things differently in the spring. Some teams have scrimmages, some teams have open practices, whatever else. But that's kind of our criteria for judging like what a top 10 is going to look like. So cool. Ohio State, that is a good one to definitely have in your top 10. I'm gonna round this list out for us here with Notre Dame. Um, Not only they have so CJ Carr, we talked about this last episode. He is the current Heisman favorite, right? But Aaron, they also have the most returning snap production. And not only that, it's a very important group of people, right? So obviously, they're losing Jeremiah Love and Price to the NFL, but they got a lot of good people left. CJ Carr. We have a whole section on quarterbacks later this episode, but he's coming back, and 73% of their defense. So that's huge for them. They have multiple, compelling reasons to be ranked in the top 10. They have elite recruiting, the strong returning core that I just mentioned. So that's just, and then obviously a very unique advantage for all, getting into the college football playoff every year from here on out, right? So that's always good. There's a lot of high expectations for this program. I believe they're going to be a national title contender with everything that I've mentioned before. CJ Carr, he is going to enter into a playmaker kind of stature versus just handing the ball off. And I think he's ready for that based off of what we saw in the spring game. So, they do have a more competitive schedule this year, based off compared to last year. But I think, they're going to have that fire, that fuel and fire based on how they were treated last year. I think they'll take this season pretty seriously. And the bottom line is Notre Dame's, mix of um, elite, kind of post-spring performance, early, projections on how they're going to do, a strong returning core, guaranteed playoff spot. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I think they definitely deserve a top 10 spot for 2026.
Yeah. I mean, They seem like a team that could definitely, have a chip on their shoulder since, the way last year turned out for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So these are three teams. Like if we had to put money on, if we had to like absolutely choose three teams, we are for sure in the top 10. Those are three teams we're going to choose. Now,
Mm.
Joel Klatt, Josh Pate, they picked some teams that we feel like didn't belong in the top 10. Not to say they're bad teams. They just maybe in the 10 to 15, 11 to 15 range or 15 to 20 range. Still good teams, still top 20 teams or whatever, but just maybe not top 10, right? So, Aaron, what was the first team that we picked that you feel like didn't maybe need to be on this top 10 section?
Yeah. So it's a team that's still in concern for me to be just a shoe in top 10, and that's going to be Texas, right? So Josh Pate, he has them at number two. Um, but their 2025 resume and what happened there suggests that they may be closer in the 12 to 15 range.
Mm-hmm.
Losing those games to Ohio State and Georgia, right? Um, they had the inconsistency at the top, right? They struggled against the elite of the SEC, only scoring 10 in that blowout loss of Georgia. And then, they did beat Michigan, but it was a Michigan team that was also reeling from a down year and, had the implosion of their coaching staff towards the end of the season, right? Um, you know, the the factor, right? So I mean, Arch Manning, he's exciting, but he's starting to lose his security blanket, right? He's losing his primary security blanket. Texas allowed several key contributors to walk out the door, including DeAndre Moore and the promising young talent like Jamie French, right? He was the guy who flipped to Michigan in his commitment. Now to counter that, and we'll definitely talk about it later, he does have a lot of firepower and talent coming in to the school system. So there could be easy shoes to fill there, depending on if the talent,
We
is
we
going
just
to
that's unproven though, right? We just don't know how that's
improve
going
it.
to pan out.
Exactly. All potential right now. Um, but yeah, ultimately, right, ranking them, number two on that one ranking by Josh Pate implies that they're on the same level right now based on what we've seen as a Indiana or an Oregon, right? And I just don't see that right now from them. So until they, beat a top five team during the regular season, which could happen very early because they have those games on their schedule,
Right.
um, you know, that ranking, is not something that we are in favor of or we necessarily agree with at this time.
Yeah. And again, these are our thoughts on preseason stuff, right? Like it could change. This could be very fluid by week 1 or week 2 or whatever.
Yep.
Not set in stone, just we don't feel like preseason wise they're deserving of that top 10. I'll
Yeah.
move on to our second team that we kind of agreed on that don't need to be in the top 10, and that is LSU, which I believe Joel Klatt had number 8. Josh Pate had them a little bit lower, but yeah, I think there's a lot that we don't know. Obviously, how the Lane Kiffin era is going to turn out, right? So here's the reality of things. LSU finished 7-6 last year. They went 3-5 in the SEC. We know that they had a great defense and an offense that couldn't figure itself out. Nussmeier was being designated as injured because that's the only way you can make him sit. They had the other guy come in. I forget his name at the moment, but they went 0-6 against ranked opponents last year. So they didn't beat a single team that, finished with a ranked number next to their name. So obviously the Lane Kiffin thing is a big hire, big splash. It wants it. It almost, I mean, Lane Kiffin is one of those coaches that if you get him as a coach, you're automatically in the top 25. And that's fine, just not in the top 10. He's inheriting a defense that allowed almost 20 points a game, despite all the, talent that's on that roster. But transitioning to a new system after a 6-loss season, I don't know. It rarely results in a top 10 kind of jump. So not sure about that one. On top of that, like I do want to mention like Sam Levitt, he was a number one kind of transfer, number one quarterback. That was a huge addition in the portal, but he's coming off a leg procedure from this spring. So we also don't know. I haven't seen like what's his status and like when is he like at 100% good to go by the fall, right? Not sure about that one. So if he's not ready to go, then the whole experiment is kind of like falling apart already, at least for year one. So we'll
Yep.
see about that one. All things considered, though, don't feel like they're deserving of a top 10
Yeah.
preseason ranking.
Okay. Yep. So we'll go ahead and wrap up our last team that we don't think necessarily deserves at this point in time a top 10 spot. And that's going to be USC, Southern Cal. They only appeared on one popular college football opinion top 10 one time, and that's going to be on Klatz. He had USC at number 10, but the same struggles and same ghost continue to haunt Lincoln Riley's program, right? Um, I mean, they finished 9-4 in the 2025 season, but their defense remained the issue when it mattered most. Uh, the defense had a total regression. You know, they were ranked 13th in the Big Ten in total defense and 11th in defensive scoring. Um, you know, so when they're facing those big teams like, you know, Indiana, Penn State, and Ohio State, um, and you have to start over with a new defensive scheme because, you know, they lost the defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn, to Penn State. It could be a recipe for having a 3 or 4 loss season, and that's not going to do it to even make the top 12 this year potentially, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think bottom line here, in order for them to, you know, somehow make this prediction or feeling of right now being in the top 10 true for Klatt, they're going to have a defense that's ready to step up in big time games. And we just don't see that right now for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
so, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, we kind of talked to you guys about which 3 teams we think are going to deserve to be in the top 10 that we saw, and which 3 teams are not deserving of being in that top 10 list that we saw. We wanted to go ahead and give our own top 10 prediction or how we feel teams should be ranked at this point in time right now.
This is our official
So,
list. This is our official
yeah,
list.
let us know in the comments what you think about them, and let us know if you don't agree with it or if you agree with it. So I'll kick it off with the top 5 teams, right? So
Yeah.
number 1, you know, we got Oregon. At 2, we got Notre Dame.
I
3,
feel like, but we're not gonna give an explanation on everything, but I felt like, you know, Aaron, when you and I were talking about this, I felt like Oregon, Notre Dame, they probably could have been flip flop, but we ended up with Oregon,
yeah,
just because they have more experience at quarterback. That's what we ended
mhm,
up with.
yep. And then 2 and 3, like we said, you know, Notre Dame and Ohio State. So off the rip, right? We got Big Ten teams just atop the top 3.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Well, you
with
got one more Big Ten right after.
oh yeah, we do. We have Indiana right there at 4,
Yeah.
and surprisingly, I don't think Klatt or Josh Pate had Indiana this high, right?
Yeah.
6. Oh,
Yeah.
Klatt had him at 4, but
Yeah.
Josh Pate had him at 6, right?
Hmm.
Honestly, what have they done to prove to not be a top 3 or top 2 team, right? So
What
may
was our criteria, right? They had an excellent 2025, obviously.
mhm,
They have a good amount of returning production, or like even adding a good amount, like they're adding some of the best production back. They did lose some good pieces, obviously.
yeah,
And then spring, I'm not sure how they did in the spring, but in any case, they've proven that they belong in this section of the top 10.
exactly, and I mean, I feel like it's a modest position for them because if they somehow build the same formula that they did last year, they could be right there in the top 2, right? Only time can tell. And then lastly, for the top 5, at 5 we have Georgia. We saw a lot of bright spots in that spring game. We saw a lot of return in production, and you know, despite the disappointment of finishing in the same, you know, uh, second round knockout in the playoffs, it looks pretty promising for them. Yep.
For Georgia, right? Yeah, they're number 2 in returning production, right? Quarterback
Mhm.
being one of them, a very elite LB linebacker core coming back as well. So that's good there. So I'll go through 6 through 10.
Mm-hmm.
We got the runner up of the year for last year, Miami. They got some good. They got a great quarterback kind of transfer coming in to lead the program into the new year. We put Ole Miss at number 7, and this one is kind of a we'll see. Like, they have every opportunity to prove themselves, but they still have obviously they don't have their head coach, but they have a lot that they can still leverage moving forward into the new year. Texas A&M, they have a lot of returning production. Oklahoma is at number 9. John Mateer has 1 year left in the program to really show everything that team has, and like they had that great defense. As long as, and they actually have running backs this year, so I think they should be able to do something good there on offense. And then we got Michigan and at number 10. So I'll explain a little bit more about where we think Bryce Underwood is going to take this program for the new year. But yeah, that's our top 10. Just to go 1 through 10 real quick: Oregon, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Indiana number 4, Georgia number 5, 6 Miami, number 7 Ole Miss, number 8 Texas A&M, number 9 Oklahoma, number 10 Michigan.
That's right, guys. You heard 3 of the college football world's POVs on who they think the top 10 are at this point in time, and guess what? You didn't see Alabama. It's kind of crazy to see in 2026, but this game is ever changing. But don't worry, they're on the top 25 list. They just didn't make that top 10.
Right.
Yep. So, speaking of the spring, after the spring, it's kind of hard to judge teams like we used to in the past, right? In the current era of NIL and transfer portal, coaches and teams either have their guy and can now just, buy their guy if they don't have it, right? So they don't necessarily have to wait and rebuild or necessarily recruit from high school and have somebody come in to develop, right? Usually that guy is the quarterback, right? So where they just buy now to make the
change.
system work now, right? Instant change, instant reaction, right? So the thing is, the thing that's so poetic and special about the quarterback position is that they are a leader, based on their decision making and by their performance, right? So they lead the team mentally out there, and they lead the team with their abilities. The quarterback position itself has changed the trajectory of a program in an instant in this new era of football. Man, when you think of people, you think of, Cam Ward, right? Fernando Mendoza, Joey Burrow. I mean, the list is only going to get bigger as we see stars from, maybe lesser programs or programs that aren't as hot, and they come in and just turn the program around. Somebody saw the vision in them, and they just instantly.
Right. And the crazy thing is, Aaron, like those 3 guys you mentioned, Cam Ward, Fernando Mendoza, Joe Burrow, they weren't like great at their original school and then come to their new school and then be even greater. They, like you said, almost a no name or just like a whatever, and then just come in and just immediately change the face of the program.
Yep. Exactly that. So, after seeing what teams have showed us or what teams have picked up at this point in time, in spring, which quarterback, in your opinion, Mash, is going to change the trajectory of their program the most in this 2026 season?
Yeah, so I'll pick 2. And this isn't necessarily like the best quarterbacks. It's going to be the one that are going to make the most impact, the most change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one I want to start off with is Josh Hoover. We talked about him last year. He was hoovering up the competition. Anyway, he's coming from TCU and he's going into Indiana. So that's the important piece right there. He's entering into a program that redefined history, just won the national championship. The big question is, how do you even change the trajectory of a program that just won the national championship? I'm going to give you some of his stats, what I think he can do. Let's just say Indiana, maybe they don't go back to back, but let's say they make a really deep run. He has the opportunity to make Indiana a mainstay in the national landscape, right? And that is pretty good. Most teams would love to be in the conversation every year. And Indiana, they've had a good 2-year run, They might still look like a one-hit wonder, right? So he has the opportunity to put a pin into Bloomington. So anyway, Hoover right now, Josh Hoover, he actually leads all active FBS players in career passing yards, and he ranks second in career passing touchdowns. So he has 9,600 passing yards and 71 passing touchdowns. So while Indiana had great quarterbacks recently, they've never had a guy with 31 consecutive starts at a Power Four program coming in to take the helm at Indiana. So he isn't like learning how to become a leader necessarily. He's already done that. He's a team captain. He's already broken passing records, all that sort of stuff. So I don't think Indiana is going to fall off the map just because Mendoza left for the NFL. But really looking into this guy's stat sheet, he is the most productive active passer in the nation, and he's just going to be a plug and play. Like coming into Kurt Cignetti's program, he's obviously going to he's probably going to take a next level jump. So he's going to have more career yards. He already has more career yards than most NFL starters did when they left for college. So imagine the potential that's still left there. I wanted to ask you, Aaron, do you feel like there's like a lot of pressure on him, right? Like in this spot, coming from where he's coming from, do you feel like there's too much pressure for him to perform?
So I think there will definitely be pressure on him from the coaching staff and his teammates around him who've been around this system of excellence. From a fan base standpoint, though, I don't think Indiana fans are gonna expect to just be right back in the national championship this year. I think this is all brand new to them, right?
Right.
So this isn't an Alabama dynasty that's pitched over 3 losses. I think he'll be supported, and the spotlight won't be on him because he'll have a big supporting cast.
That's a good point. Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, you named one quarterback in your opinion who is going to have that momentum that's going to traject the team into way better improvement this year. Um, I've got a quarterback in mind, right, and
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be Byron Brown. He's a transfer quarterback from South Florida, going to Auburn. I think this one's super obvious to me. He's a guy who had success at South Florida enough to create some nationwide upsets last season. Cough, Florida, right? Um, and he followed his coach to Auburn. So I think the chemistry and the scheme is about the same there. It should be a quick adjustment, right?
Right.
The only thing, in my opinion, that may change for him is positive. He's going to have a supporting cast that's naturally a little better and a little bigger, stronger, faster at this bigger program. Some of his key characteristics, right? In my opinion, his most game changing characteristic is his dual threat ability. We're talking about a 6'3", 230 plus beast that can run and pass it. Auburn fans are really, really going to like this because he's probably the closest resemblance to, Cam Newton that they've seen in such a long time, right? My only concern for him this season will be, how can he adjust to this long, tough schedule that pretty much every SEC team has to endure, right? Every game is going to be tough once you get past game 1 or 2. So can he step up to the plate and can he deliver just these all-star games every season?
That's obviously a huge adjustment. I'm looking at, USF schedule from last year. You mentioned they beat Florida. It was an 18-16 game. Next week they played Miami and it was a 49-12 game, which they lost. So that's going to be week in and week out pretty much in the SEC. So I'm sure there will be some losses. Obviously, there's a new team, new scheme, all that sort of stuff. But he is going to be a standout player. I have no doubt that Auburn is going to be much better than they were last year.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about one more quarterback that I feel like is going to change the trajectory of their program, especially based on what we saw in the last couple of years. Michigan did win the national championship a couple years ago, but based on how they've been since then and all the drama, we'll put it that way, that's surrounding the program, they're just not in a good spot. But I
Mhm.
think Bryce Underwood can bring them back into a good light. I think last year he did okay. He was like he had a crazy recruiting kind of season. He's supposed to go to LSU. Michigan threw the bag at him. He flipped last minute. Who knows what kind of butterfly effect that had, thinking about Brian Kelly and his tenure and all that. But in any case, he had an okay year last year. Michigan did okay, not great. But the hire of Kyle Whittingham from Utah, that's the single biggest factor for Underwood and how he's going to hopefully unlock the potential that he has, hopefully has, um, as the quarterback for Michigan this fall. So Kyle Whittingham's teams, they're famous for being very quarterback friendly. They dominate the line of scrimmage, which means that the quarterback is protected. He has time to do what he needs to do, and I would, you know, that would be a welcome sight to see Bryce Underwood not have to scramble for his life all the time. So at Utah in 2025, last year, Kyle Whittingham's offense, they ranked number 2 in the nation in rushing touchdowns. That's something that we know Bryce Underwood is good at. So I imagine we'll see more of that this year as well. The spring game that Michigan had, Bryce Underwood was the starter. He had mixed results. You could say in a very vanilla offense, his numbers didn't pop or anything like that. Freshman, there's a freshman under him, Tommy Carr. He performed pretty well, so that's creating some buzz. But maybe that'll put a little fire under Bryce Underwood's behind. So we'll see about that. He has a new offensive coordinator. He's coming from Utah, like we said, very quarterback friendly. He has a reputation for developing very mobile, high IQ quarterbacks that we know Bryce Underwood has. And the part that I'm excited about, I love a good offensive line. Jim Harding, he is the new offensive line coach. His offensive lines at Utah, he had multiple semifinalists, like runner-up type, offensive lines. Ironically enough, they lost a couple times to Michigan for the Joe Moore, best offensive line award. So, and that's where he's at now. So, very excited to see how well he's protected and what he gets to do with that. The point is, right, like Bryce Underwood last year, he completed 60% of his passes in a season where he was often forced to run for his life. So having he had 2,400 yards last season. Having that under your belt, considering the season that you just had, that is a great floor to start with, based on, and especially considering what he's about, the system that he's about to play in now. So last year Michigan's offense was Underwood or bust. Basically, in 2026 they have 5-star running back Savion Hyder. Whittingham's power run scheme means that Underwood's not going to have to throw 40 times a game to win. He can play more of a point guard and use RPOs and other types of playmaking abilities to be really dangerous on the field. So in any case, long story short, I think Bryce Underwood's really gonna change the face of Michigan in the next couple years.
Yeah, yeah. He's a young guy, so he's only entering his second year with the team. He should be
Right,
a little bit more seasoned, right?
right.
Speaking of seasoned guys and guys who should have learned their team system by now. I'll close this out with the last quarterback that I think is going to have the most impact to change a team's trajectory. That, in my opinion, is going to be Arch Manning. Um, say what you want about what happened last season in Austin, but I think we saw Arch finally getting toward his peak performance at the end of the year. Um, we knew he could run it, right? But there was heavy skepticism and criticism on his passing game. Um, the lack of wide receiver help, and then sometimes there was blown big time games, right? Um, this year, post NIL transfer portal window, the theme for critics toward Texas this year is going to be no excuses, right? They should have everything they need. They've loaded Arch up with the personnel now. So you got Cam Coleman, Ryan Wingo, and Hollywood Smothers, right? It's going to be the ultimate. I'm calling it like the balance of firepower. Um, he should be able to pick his target on any side of the ball in any wideout position, right? or he should be able to hand it off to, an explosive running back. So he should have everything he needs to perform at the level we are hoping to see him perform at this year. The key in Texas's trajectory this year to me seems to be the advantages they have in their schedule. Don't get me wrong, they have tough games, right? They have LSU, they have Oklahoma, they got Texas A&M, but there's no regular season Georgia, which seems to be their kryptonite right now as, a team that's joining into the SEC. However, they also have the following games at home. So they got Ole Miss at home, Florida at home, and Ohio State, right? Plus, this year, instead of just opening the gates with Ohio State, they get to warm up with a Texas State this time, instead of opening with that haymaker. Bottom line, I think we may see Arch take this team on a potential playoff run if all goes well in the moments that matter and they stay healthy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to. They have all the runway in the world. Well, maybe not. That's not the. They have all the opportunity in the world, but they still have to prove it. And that just remains to be seen. So, in any case, look, we gave our top 10 where we disagree with the best voices in college football. We gave our top 4 quarterbacks to kind of watch in the offseason. That's our episode for today, folks. So appreciate you guys watching. It's a little bit of a long one, but I thought there was a lot of good information here. So we'll be back next week, and we'll hope to catch you then. Thanks for watching.